There we go. Okay, so this week, what did we cover this week? This week we covered breath holds, the topic of breath holds. Now, it's an interesting topic because the topic basically covers what you don't want. So sometimes training, you're covering the things that you want students to do. Breath holds is we never really want to do breath holds unless we're underwater or in a smoke-filled room, or maybe being choked. These are those situations. But generally, we don't want to hold our breath. And when you say that to people, everybody will agree, right? So first, I taught the class with all kinds of movements and exercises where people were breathing. And then I asked them to do the same thing while holding their breath as long as they could, and then going from there. And students clearly saw that holding your breath sucks. That's it. And it sounds obvious, but you need to feel it. Sometimes you just need to feel something to truly understand its depth of it. Okay. So I'm talking push-ups, squats, leg raises, running, moving on the ground, anything you want to talk about. We covered it, moving and then holding the breath. And they clearly saw it. Now that was on Tuesday. On Thursday, I covered the same topic, holding breath, but what I asked students was to put 3 layers to holding the breath. So a mild version, a medium version, and a strong version. Now, what I mean by that is that there are sometimes like mild stresses in life, like I'm driving my car and somebody cuts me off. And I just, I'm not fully irate, but I'm not happy about what the stupid move the person did. So I held my breath. I was like, that son of a, bitch, just I hold my breath. Or you get an email you didn't want to get, and for a moment you hold your breath, or whatever it is, it's a mild breath hold. Those are the ones that are the most active in our day-to-day life. They build up tension in us. They build up a lot of stress. Okay. It could be the kids, it can be partners, family members. These little stresses build up. So I had students pay closer attention to that. Then so would be do push-ups and just mildly hold your breath and do a few, and then hold your breath longer and do maybe 5, and then longer and try to do 10. So it starts to show students that there's not just breath holds, but there's different degrees of breath holds. There's mild, I call it mild, medium, and hard. It's just like there's many degrees of fear, there's many degrees of anger, there's many degrees of love. Like it's not just one. There's many. It's not like Bob Marley said, one love. No, okay, it's just 3 levels. There's more levels to it, and you can break it down to 10%, 20%, 30%, or you can break it down 1, 2, 3. However it is, there's different levels of breath holds and different levels of stress. Okay, so there's the breath hold from fear. There's the breath hold from anger. There's the breath hold from just mild interruptions in our day. These are connected to pressures in the body. So when I'm hold my breath, when I'm mad, the pressure seems like a steam. When I hold my breath because I'm scared, it feels like it goes inside. Does that make sense, guys? Like you're following along, right? So understand that there's these different, at the beginning, it's just breath hold. Then as students get that concept, and as you start to get that concept, you start to add these layers of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You start adding, okay? So just on your own training, try this, okay? So whether it's push-ups, and you should do it maybe like once a month. Don't do it every week or every day, because the body doesn't like it. You're actually suffocating the body, right? It's kind of like it's like you shouldn't whip yourself every day. It's not something, whip maybe once a month, just to understand pain and understand the feeling of it. But it's nothing with any more regularity that will give you much value. I mean, whatever you can learn from that frequency, right? Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. So just breath hold stuff. Now, it's really endless how you can do it. My favorite training for breath holds is in the pool. So if you have access to a pool, it's wonderful to do that, because what happens is when you go underwater, so when I go on vacation, people often wonder what I do. So my kids think I'm crazy when I'm on vacation. I walk the beach, I go into the water, I go underwater. It looks like I'm floating there dead. But I'm actually practicing my breath and my breath hold training. And what I love about being underwater when I'm holding my breath is there's no cheating, right? You can't cheat. And it's very peaceful, because underwater it's just peaceful. So whereas contrary, when you do it above water, like at the school or outside, it's not as peaceful. You start to panic more. But I find I can hold my breath underwater much longer, and I can increase my lung capacity. There's a famous picture of Muhammad Ali underwater boxing. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. You can buy it. It's a picture out there. And he was one of the first people that I know in the modern era that talked a lot about he would practice his boxing underwater to strengthen his breathing, to strengthen his lung capacity. Very interesting training and a wonderful picture.
There's
Yeah,
a
what's up?
there is a technique big riders, surfers use, carry stones under. Yeah,
Really?
carrying stones under
Wow.
waters. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So this is another way, right? So I mean, for yourself personally, if you have access to a swimming pool, it's great. It's wonderful training to get underwater, or just take lots of vacations in your life. That's my option. I like that one better. Um, so so that was how I begun the class. Okay. Now what I did was on Tuesday, we worked with a knife right after. So it was about a half hour somewhere there. We trained with the breath holds. Then I gave students a knife and I asked them to start to move out of the way. And what happens is with a weapon, you'll see that when people move, they hold their breath. Like it happens, those little holds, right, happen. So if you're going slow, when a student changes directions, they'll hold their breath to move. And I asked them a simple question, and you have to ask yourself this question: can you control the knife strike? Not really. You can't control it. So it's odd. So why would you give it too much focus? Because I can't control it. I mean, I got to pay attention, but in terms of all my focus, no. What I can control is my breathing. So you need to put your breath control in the right position. So I put my focus on breath control and my awareness on the knife. So I know that if I'm breathing smoothly, I can move smoothly. Okay. So the person that's stabbing me, even if it's mild, I'm trying to control the level of my tension. So if the person starts to swing fast and hard, I have to move fast and hard. I put my focus on my breathing. I don't let I don't let the visual stimulus of the knife and the mental thought of being stabbed grab me. Okay. I understand it's scary, guys. Don't get me wrong. I know it's scary. I've been there. But I guarantee you, if you think about the knife, you're going to get hit. You're going to get, it's too scary for you to think about, if you know what I mean. Right? It's just too scary of a weapon. So when they were training with the knife, that was the main focus. I said, even when the knife speeds up and it gets very dynamic, I want you to try really listen to your breathing. And that was the next half hour of the class was just that. And then the last little part was now try to take the knife. And that was it. So you tried. Now, of course, not everybody could do this. That was the kind of sequence of it, right? And it had varying degrees of success. But I think that if I asked students, they would probably say they reached at least a 50% success rate. So about every other knife stab that came at them, they moved and they could make an attempt at kind of taking it. Like it wasn't always, but it played at that level, I think. And Karen, you were there. Were you at about that rate, or were you less? Where were you? Like in terms of your when you could take the knife, how successful did you find you were?
Can you hear me okay, first of all? Because
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I think for me, I'm not even sure I could tell you that because I was so not focused on whether I was taking it. I was so focused on my hiccups, my breathing, and trying to breathe through it and not hold the hiccup, like not hold. So for me, I don't know. I was really sure 50% seems very reasonable. It was more about noticing the awareness of holding my breath.
Okay, there you go. So you can kind of see that, right? So, and then on the second day, on the Thursday, we did again the breathing with the levels, and then instead of a knife, I used a short stick. So when the short stick was coming at you, again, you're moving and you're trying not to hold your breath, or at least trying to be aware of your breath as you're moving. Okay. And again, and then they did that for a bit, and then I said, okay, now try and move and take the stick. Okay. Now, weapons training. So how these two things are connected, because this is what maybe you haven't heard before. How these two things are connected is nothing ever goes right with a weapon. It's never like it never makes you feel good. Weapons are super frustrating, and holding your breath is super frustrating. It's not going the way you want it to go. It's not smooth. Like when I tell you, okay, run and breathe and everything is great, it doesn't work like that. Does that make sense, guys? So the two are actually connected by the level of frustration that they build in students, okay? And for you to be successful at taking weapons or dealing with weapons, you definitely have to be ready for frustration. You definitely have to be ready for things to not go your way. And you have to be ready for these little breath holds when they happen, or big breath holds, and to feel them right away and fix it. Okay? Right away and fix it. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that I don't know how many of you will get to, but I want you to imagine a basketball player who's got to shoot free throws. Okay, so a basketball player that's just shooting free throws. It's so easy. There's nobody touching you. You're just not too far away from the basket, and all you have to do is just put it in there. Okay, now the more attention you give to that, the worse. I can't control if that ball goes in. I can only control my mindset and my relaxation and my breathing. Okay, even though it's intense. The guys that shoot the highest percentage free throws will tell you that they do not focus on the basket at all. They look at the basket and then they throw it in. Okay. Now, a different one, a different maybe example that will maybe bring home. I'm sure most of you drive a car or a motorcycle or a bicycle, right? How much, just a question to everybody, how much, what percentage of your driving experience do you give to aiming the car in the middle of the road? So how much, like as I'm driving down the street, how much attention do you put on making sure that the car stays between the two lines and you don't hit the curb or you don't hit somebody else? It's probably very little, right? I don't even know how I got home sometimes. I'm not joking. Sometimes I'm driving, I say, I'm home. Wow, I don't remember a thing about how I got home, but somehow I got home. As driving is the most dangerous thing we do. You know that, right? More people die in car accidents than anywhere else, than anything else. More than guns, more than knives. It's the most dangerous thing we do, and we completely zone out. Okay? Because we're completely comfortable. We've driven enough to understand that the harder we try to aim the car in the middle of the lane, it does not get better. Okay? It's not something that will get better. It is as good as it's going to get. And if you don't believe me, I want you to try. When you're driving your car, I want you to make sure you try extra hard to make sure you're right in the middle of the lane and watch what happens. You will not, it is way better when you zone out and just let it happen. But for some strange reason, with a knife or a gun or a stick, we think that if we focus on it more, we're going to somehow get a better result. If you're looking at it, you focused on it enough. If I'm looking at the road that I'm driving on, I focused on it enough. I don't need to do any more than that. Okay. The more you do, the worse it gets. So I'm not telling you that it's not scary. I'm not saying that at all. I'm telling you that you're over focusing and you're over trying to get it right. Okay. So training needs to kind of take a step back and stop trying so hard. Okay. That makes, I hope that registers with all of you, right? You don't need more information. You just need more details in your work, and be honest with yourself, guys, right? Is honest. It is dangerous. There's no doubt. Okay. There is no doubt, but you've got to get comfortable, and you got to put your attention where it gives you the best advantage of success. Okay. It's the best advantage. Otherwise you're going to fail every time, or you're going to be in a constant state of frustration. Okay. So we did that. And then on the second day, I also threw in about 20 minutes of light sparring, so they stay close and kind of touch each other a little bit. And again, you see everybody losing their breath. They hold their breath because they feel they're going to get touched, right? And all of a sudden, the breath starts to go, right? And what you do is you also see jittery movements, right? Like, it was funny. I even saw one guy doing this. I'm like, People just touching you. You're not. It's not a boxing match. There's nobody punching you in the head. But it's habitual. Some of the things that we do, and they cause us to get irritated and agitated. And when we're irritated, we can't truly express ourselves, right? And that's why I love watching high level athletics. It doesn't matter what it is, gymnastics, dancing, rugby, it doesn't matter. At the high level, people are not jittery. They're not bouncing around. They're smooth, you know. If you ever watch Muhammad Ali, I really liked it. He was always moving. You saw him moving, but he was so relaxed when he moved. You know, even his jitteriness was smooth. It was beautiful. Yeah, like a butterfly. It was very nice the way he moved. He didn't move like he was scared. He moved like the way he wanted to move, which is really interesting, right? And then you have you know, Michael and the great Systema teachers. They just sit still. That's the way he moves, right? And it's fine. I don't know. You have to look at your day. I just posted a video. Um, you guys can see it. It was on. I think I put it on the Signal chat. Karen couldn't stop laughing in the background. I said, "Okay, imagine if I was emptying my dishwasher, and as I open up my dishwasher, I randomly and I start to put away the plates. You would say, you would walk by and say, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Why are you making such sharp movements to empty out the dishwasher?" Right? I said, "But that's how people treat knife. They make movements that are jittery and it attracts attention and it makes the other person nervous too. So you have to look at your everyday life and say to yourself, how do I empty the dishwasher? How do I wash the dishes? How do I fold the clothes? How do I do the laundry?" And then you add speed on top of that, but not jitteriness. You might go faster, but it shouldn't be jittery. It shouldn't be like this, right? It should be smooth. It should be. And the fastest, when I look at the fastest people in the world, we're talking about okay, 100-meter sprinter. You know, let's look at Usain Bolt. He's moving pretty damn fast and pretty smooth to me, right? Right. Muhammad Ali, pretty fast, pretty smooth to me, right? Um, Anybody that does speed, there's always a smoothness to that speed. Okay, so they practiced it slow and smooth, and it became fast and smooth. They didn't practice it stiff and scared, and it becomes fast, stiff, and scared, right? So there's a big difference. So some of you might need to take a step backwards in your training um, to go forwards further. So sometimes you have to go backwards to say, I need to rethink this because what controls your muscles, guys? The mind, and the mind is part of the central nervous system. So if you cannot control your nerves, you can't control your muscles. That's this information impulse. So I would have for a long time, I would sit on a wall and have somebody throw a punch right at my face, like just hopefully somebody you trust, just short of your face, okay? Just like that. And I would just sit there and do nothing but watch this punch come into my face and try to calm my mind. I had people grab me very hard and do nothing but just let the person grab me hard. And I calmed my mind down first. So I stopped that. And then I started to work after that. I refused to work when I'm nervous, right? For those of you that have target or practice target sports, there's a condition called target panic. It's where when I see the target that I'm after, I panic, right? Students have it when they see a test, they panic, right? It's they see it and they panic when they see it. Most of us have that with our dreams. We see it and then we panic, right? How dare we accomplish them? So the first thing you have to do is just look at it. Just look at it. Don't do anything else. Just look at it and see where your mind goes. And then once your mind goes in the right place, the nervous impulse will go to the right place. But if your mind is going to fear and doubt and worries, your muscles will react to fears and doubts and worries. Does that make sense, guys? So I spent a lot of time people hitting me or people coming close to hitting me. And I came really close and I just said, it's okay. I'm good. I got this. Things happen. It's okay. Like positive things so that my mind was not gravitating to the worst possible situation. Okay. So I know what I'm telling you is not easy, but the reason I'm able to accomplish that is because I've removed the things that are useless in my mind. So I'm going to show you guys. I've got an interesting course planned for December, January, February, March of 2023. I was telling Grant about it. I'll tell you guys about it. So I know a lot of you in different ways, and you are all asking me for a very similar thing in maybe in different angles. In order for us to really kind of make room for new things in life, you have to remove things. That's how that works. Okay. So whenever I want to see something different, I have to throw things out. Right. So, and I mean, on the physical level, I'll open up my closet and there's a pair of jeans that I wore 5 years ago. I've gained a few pounds. They don't fit. I have them there just in case I lose a few pounds, but I know I won't lose a few pounds. But they're there. I keep them there just in case, right? Or have a shirt that I wore 10 years ago. It still fits me, but it's out of style, but maybe it'll come back into style. So I'll just leave it there, right? Because I paid $100 for it. If I throw it out or give it away, I feel like I've lost $100 rather than just leave it there and I haven't done anything. But what ends up happening is your closet gets full and full and full, okay? And then you have no more room for new stuff. And then if you do get new stuff, you won't remember where it is because there's too much stuff in your closet. So with your martial arts skills, you need to, for every skill I acquire, everything I acquire, I remove something. That's it. So one in, one out. I find what I need in my closet. I said, this is it. If I buy something, I say to myself, what do I have to remove? That's it. And I remove it. Okay? Don't be a hoarder of skills. You'll never remember them, ever. Okay. This philosophy was not mine alone. You guys remember the Warrior series that was on TV? It was called the Ultimate Warrior series, right? It was this Ultimate Warrior series. Anyway, they concluded that the fiercest fighters and the best fighters, they had the simulation test. The samurai versus the ninja, this warrior versus that warrior. They concluded that the Spartan warrior was by far the most superior. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm Greek, that my mother is Spartan. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it because what made them superior was that they had 3 weapons. That's it. And the shield was considered. So they had a shield that was considered a weapon because they used it as a weapon, not just a shield. They had a short sword and a spear. That's it. So that when they went into battle, it was very clear what they could do. Okay. There was no mess. There was not tons of weapons which should I use, which shouldn't I use. There was very little obligation. What they had was simple, and because of that, it worked. Okay, you want to make sure that if you're building a martial arts skill set and you're building a body of work that is going to be yours, simple will always win the day. So try to keep it as simple as you can. Okay. Now I can give you some examples, like if you look at that guy, what's that Facebook guy? If you see what they wear, look at how simple their clothes are. There's nothing fancy. Not because they've simplified even their clothing line. Like Steve Jobs, plain clothing. Guy can afford any clothes he wants, but he doesn't want to make this. He wants to keep decisions as fast and as simple as he possibly can. Okay, so you don't want to be collecting. A lot of you need to kind of get rid of some of the skills that you're holding on to, right? I'll give you a story. You guys are okay with it. I don't want to ramble, but years ago, Michael came in to teach a class of lads, and there was a lot of good martial artists at that time. They were doing all kinds of stuff: sambo, jiu-jitsu, boxing. We had guys that did kind of everything. That was the flavor back then. Everybody did everything. I guess it still exists now. And Michael was watching this guy work, who was a good martial artist, and he looks at him and he says, the guy says, can I have some feedback? Michael says, sure. He says, well, if martial arts was a jacket, he says, I can see that you have the sleeve is from jiu-jitsu, this sleeve is from boxing, this part of the jacket is from some judo you did, and there was some high school wrestling on this side, and the back was from some other street fights that you got into. So I see, um, I see your martial arts skills like a jacket like this. And the guy goes, oh, and he didn't know what to think of that comment. And he said, if you wore that on the street, it would be a very ugly jacket. He goes, the only thing I can see is the seams, where you pieced it together, right? You pieced, if this were a jacket, nobody would think it was beautiful. It's not made from one material. It's not made in one way by one design. You mashed it together. Is everybody following that train of thought? So I want you guys to, it's not about Systema to me for you guys. It's about, you are developing your own martial art, whether it's by Miro or by Grant or by whoever. These things are one piece, okay? I want you to take something as one piece and make a jacket that looks beautiful for you to wear, exactly the way you want it, okay? I don't want you to mishmash things. I mean, a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick, it's fine, okay? No issues. But you have to make it your own, right? It has to somehow become your own, right? That's going to be the challenge for most of you, right? Is that you don't want to be collecting and hoarding pieces of martial arts. You want to be studying one body of work, right? One body of work, like something that you'll be proud to show to somebody. You know, like if I was a musician or if I was a writer, I want to present somebody the body of work that I do. Here are the books that I've written. Here's the body, you know, here's the it should be nice. I should feel proud about it, right? It's not just I did it, right? I want you to feel proud about the work you're going to do. Does that make sense, guys? Or you see that? Okay. So I will send you all more information about what I've got planned for December, January, February, and March. I think you'll all enjoy it much better. And if you have any questions, you can always, I'm not going to sit here and ramble about it online. I don't think it's necessary. But essentially, I'm going to be taking themes and topics that I think are going to be valuable for you and covering them for a month and kind of building onto it and continuing it as we go down. So we spend the first, let's say, quarter of the year really refining the internal parts of our study, and then slowly working outwards from that and working outwards. So most people go out to come in, but I think it's better now you guys start to go from the inside and start to go out, right? Like, we can, if I were to sing you a song and I wrote you down the lyrics, that could tell you what the song is about. If you asked me what was the inspiration by the song, that would tell you more, right? Lyrics will say one thing, but inspiration or how somebody came up with the thought of a song can teach you much more, right? So that has a bigger value to you when you go a little bit deeper. Like when you start asking yourself, why am I doing martial arts? You know, this starts to become a deeper question, and it will sustain you as a martial artist much longer if you never forget why you're doing something, right? Never forget why you're doing it, right? Don't do it for some other reason. Don't do it to impress anyone. Do it for why you're doing it. That's all, right? People will always misunderstand you. There's no doubt about it. But as long as you understand you, that's important. You understand you. I understand myself, not everybody else. Not even our kids. Anyway, talk to me, guys. I don't want to keep rambling. Does that sound good, or do you see how you can work with the breath holds now? Like you see how that starts to connect, right? So it's going to be very subtle. And please pay attention to these little subtleties. They're going to tell you a lot more. Okay. Questions, guys? It looks like some of you might have some questions. So you talk to me if you have. Don't feel bad.
So you're kind of saying I train, breath in like the subconscious level.
Sorry,
That's kind of what you're getting at.
my earpiece went. Sorry, say that again.
That's right. So you're basically, it sounds to me like you're saying kind of like training breath and to kind of ingrain it in a subconscious sort of way.
So there's,
Like,
so that's the
get
other
our
part I'm
body
gonna
to
talk.
kind of like just not, stall or get fidgety, or I'm sorry, like,
So,
not smooth.
so, when you go slower, but the main goal is to take up more detail, it always wins the day. Okay. So an athlete that's training to lift weights will lift a very light weight, maybe just the bar, to be honest with you, and get the form slow and smooth. Um, they're not trying to just lift a light weight. They're trying to perfect the form for heavier weights. When you go slow, it's because you're perfecting something for more speed and more power. But most people go slow just because they want to go slow. That's not the reason, right? When I'm teaching my kids how to drive and they're practicing in a parking lot like I'm in right now, I'm not trying to get them good at a parking lot. I need them to get out onto the road. So we're always remember, like, we're going slow to go faster because that's how it is. So we're developing comfort to go faster. Most people that go slow just feel comfortable, but they forget that it's to go faster, right? So you really have to develop. And how does that develop? With just doing it a lot. Okay. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there's 3 levels of ability. There's the conscious, the subconscious, and there's another one which is known as the self-image. And this is very important for you to remember. Most people never talk about that third one, and they get lost in it. I'll talk about it in February. That's the plan for that, because unless you do the work, unless you understand many things before that, like, there was a student, lots of students come to me from different walks of system of life, from different parts of the world, and they'll always ask me similar questions, but they haven't made room for new information. It's like a hoarder. They've got so much stuff in their house, they couldn't find what they wanted if they tried. So a very important part of somebody wanting to learn something new is getting rid of a lot of the junk that they're not using or that they think they might need. Okay. They think they might need. And if you don't believe me, because my parents are older now, and their friends are passing on, and I know their kids, and it's always the same when they go to the parents' house that's passed away, and they see all the stuff that the person has accumulated. It's not stuff, it's not just memory stuff. It's like a pair of shoes that they're never going to wear again, that's 10 years old. Like, they just collect these things that will never be used in any which way, shape, or form. As martial artists, we do this. We don't fully get rid of stuff and make room for new stuff. Okay. So you can't see the subconscious if you don't do that. You can't devote the attention to these things if you don't clear out your closet and make room for new stuff, because you're going to be making new stuff. You're going to be strengthening new neural pathways, right? So you want to remove the connections to old habits and old ways that maybe served you 20 years ago, but don't serve you anymore. Right? We have a lot of things, like boxing served me great when I was 16 years old. It doesn't serve me at all now. At all. I don't want to strengthen that neural pathway. Just don't. It's a thought pattern. You need to make room for a new thought pattern, a new way of thinking, a new belief. That takes a lot of work, right? So there is a process I'm going to take you through, and the very first one is physically and mentally removing things from you before you even think about adding anything new. Okay, that's an important thing. So yes, there's conscious and subconscious, but there's a third one that not many people talk about. Only the high level guys will talk about this stuff, and it's like, wow, I wish I had known that 20 years ago. Boy, I might not have understood it, but it would have saved me a lot of time, right? A lot of time. What a lot of people talk as confidence is an image thing, right? That's all. You think I ever saw myself as a teacher? I never, not even for a day. I tell all you guys, I was the first one that Vladimir said, "Can you please teach a class?" Because he was tired. And for the first 6 months of my teaching, I was teach once a week, twice a week. People would come into class and walk out because Vlad wasn't teaching for 6 months. Right? Could your self-image handle that if you were a teacher? Right? That's hard. That's a hard one because everybody wants to see the head chef, right? But he needed help. So it's not my subconscious that was taking a pounding. It was self-image, right? Because it bugs you, right? So you need to be strong enough. All of us need to be strong enough to hold in our self-image, right, of ourselves, right? And you need to somehow understand that, and that's hard. Even me, when I wanted to teach kids, everybody thinks that as soon as you teach kids, it becomes a McDojo. Like all of a sudden, it's like somebody who's just trying to profit off of martial arts, right? That wasn't the case at all. But again, your self-image takes a pounding. I don't want to be seen as like one of those kind of martial artists, right? Right? Because it's not. This is not a hobby for me. It's a level of commitment. You know, it's you know, some people go to the gym and they say, "Oh, I'm just here to work out. It's just a pastime." Well, it's another guy's life. It's another guy's life. Like, so don't forget about that, right? So that so what I'm proposing here is, I think some of you need to take a few steps back, clear out the useless stuff that you're doing, or the stuff that does not serve you anymore, or maybe doesn't serve the life that you're at right now, right? And study or train in something that might be more beneficial to you over a longer period of time. Okay. Other questions, guys? Like I said, more information will come, but you can always ask me. Yeah, sorry, Alberto.
I'm gonna clean my closet today.
You guys laugh, man. You guys laugh. I have thrown out so many clothes. I can't tell you. Like it's and you got to do it in stages. But it's when you physically start throwing out. Guys, I had 28 pairs of socks. What do you need 28 friggin' pairs of socks for? I didn't realize how many socks I had in my drawer. I was holding on to underwear. I'm like, it's practically disintegrating. Why am I holding on to this underwear? Like, throw it out, right? And even then, I can't throw it out. I have it in my garage because I'll probably wipe up something. Like, I don't even want to, I have to have some use for it. I can't just throw it out. I'm such a, like, this is important that once I clear it out, it's like that you feel the pressure coming off yourself. I know it's silly. It sounds silly. But this movement is quite powerful. It's there's a huge movement across the world where people are saying, I don't need any more things. I just don't need any more. I need less to be happy, right? So this it's a very material, kind of a materialistic world. There's always something better, but martial arts the same thing. It's always like we think we need more to be happier, but it just makes it worse. There's always something else. So I hope you guys, that makes sense to some of you, right? So yeah, there is a physical component to it. And then once you get the physical, you start to realize, okay, here's the emotional, here's the psychological, and here's the kind of mental things that are weighing me down, right? So interesting that way.
There's a lot of things I used to do, I could do in karate, judo, even judo, that I can't do anymore. My body doesn't help anymore.
Or your body doesn't want it or whatever, but be able to throw it out and do something that serves you better right now, that serves you better. Okay. We should be able to do that right away. And again, I'll have a little outline for you guys to look at, and then you can decide whether you want to be part of the course, because there will be some stipulations. It's not just this, it's not for everybody. It's a whole other level of commitment, right? So it's a different level, right? And there has to be a consequence. Now, I'm not going to do this, but I have a good friend of mine who's a personal trainer, and he's a really good guy. And his fees for training are very easy. So I think it's like $100 an hour for the guy. He's very reasonable. But when you hire him, you got to book, I think it's like 30 sessions. You don't have to pay for it up front, but he also makes you sign, he also makes you give him a check of $3,000. And he goes, and if you quit before you're finished your session, he will submit it to a charity that you don't like. So I'll give you an example. He was training a Jewish guy, and he said to the Jewish guy, he says, so no problem, I'll train you. He was so happy. He goes, now you need to give me a check for $3,000. Okay, no problem. I'm not going to quit. He goes, if you do quit, I'm not cashing this check. It's a blank check, and it's going to go to the Nazi Party of Canada. And he goes, no, but hold on. Think about that for a second, okay? And you're like, now you've increased that person's commitment because he does not want to not do this because he does not want that to happen, right? So he's working on a premise that people are motivated by different things, right? And failing cannot be an option. Don't let it be an option, right? Do it. Just do it. Commit yourself to something, guys. For God's sakes, it can't be that hard. Commit yourself to something. It's my life's work, right? It's a huge benefit. So he would, and his success rate is amazing because he does that, right? So it gets a whole other level. I'm not going to do that to you guys. Don't worry, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. But he gets results from it. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Otherwise, I'm just going to be rambling, and I don't want to keep rambling. Unless you guys got questions or anything like that, you let me know. I'm sorry about today, guys. I really am. I didn't want to be in my car doing this, but some stuff just happened with my kid, and it was, driving test, outage, whatever, So I will see you guys next week and look for more information for sure by mid-November about this, okay? Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I can't tell you thanks enough, okay?
Have a
Thank you,
great
guys.
weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Good,
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.